Hi there, and welcome to this month's Eppo Solution Session. This one's all about doing experiments on Shopify Headless. I'm joined by solution engineer Heather Hargreaves today, and I'm CJ Towell, and I run product marketing here at Eppo. So first, we'll talk a little bit about what is Eppo for anyone not familiar or anyone that just needs a refresher. I'll talk a little bit about how users on Shopify are experimenting today. I'll talk about the different ways that you can experiment on Eppo, on Shopify using Eppo. And then we'll get into a demo and then follow up with some Q&A. If you do have any questions, you don't have to wait and just kind of hold them until the Q&A portion. Please ask them at any time, and I'll try to kind of weave them into the talk track. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So what is Eppo? So Eppo is first and foremost an experimentation platform. That means that we can facilitate experiments on any of the surfaces you touch. So whether they be advertising, your website, your Shopify site, or your product itself or an app, we can help you run experiments there and we can help enable self-serve experimentation. And the way we do that is through our UI. And so basically, we've looked at the best of the best. We've looked at the Amazons, the Netflixes of the world, and seen how they go from doing, maybe one experiment or two experiments a month, like most companies, and how they get up to that, thousands and tens of thousands of experiments per year. And the way to do that is through self-serve experimentation, which you can see bolded up in that description in the top. And that means having non-data scientists and PhD holders be able to start an experiment, to run it and to come away with accurate results that they can understand. So our UI is based all around that, being able to have any user, a product manager, a marketer, and so on, run that experiment, understand the results, and then know what to do, kind of know what the takeaway should be without having to understand what a p-value is, for instance. That said, we do understand what p-values are. So we were built by statisticians for statisticians. Our founders come from the internal experimentation tools at companies like Airbnb and Webflow. And so you've got this great supporting foundation of statistical rigor that underlies all this. If you're like me, if you're a business user, you can just ignore that and not have to care about that and just know that the experiments you run are going to take less time. You're going to be able to get away with smaller sample sizes and you're going to get more accurate results. But if you are a data scientist or a stats PhD holder, you have all of that interesting information around Bayesian and Bonferroni connections and everything else that I don't have to understand, thankfully, but the rest of us at Eppo do. And so let's talk about experimenting on Shopify today. Right, there's a couple ways to do that. So you've got visual editors like VWO and Optimizely. I think we're lucky enough to have someone from Optimizely on the call, so hopefully I'm doing your solution justice here. But basically, these are tools that allow business users, your product managers, your growth managers, your marketers to run A/B tests on a Shopify store or kind of any website like that. And now the main kind of thing to point out, I guess, with these visual editors is their approach. And I'm not going to slam them too hard. We have our own. There's a tool for every job, and I truly believe that. But with visual editors, the way it works is basically you have your original page, and then on top of that, you have a JavaScript injection that changes, say, an image or a piece of copy or something like that. And so what'll happen there is you load the original page or your shopper loads the original page, the JavaScript gets injected, the image changes or the text changes. Sometimes that can be seamless. Sometimes that can add a little bit of a flicker where the user will see the original experience and then flip over to the treatment experience that you want them to see. So at Eppo, we recommend that you don't use that for the super critical flows where milliseconds really count, like an add to cart flow or a checkout flow or something. Probably better to be used on kind of the PDPs and the like of the world where traffic can be a little bit slower and a little bit less voluminous. There also exists a host of Shopify specific visual editors. So you've got like Pack Digital and Visually.io and IntelliGems there. Same principle, works the same way with a JS injection. Probably a little bit easier to integrate with Shopify for non-business users. But on the flip side, again, same kind of scope, same flicker issues, and you don't really have that like stats basis as much. So results may not be as trustworthy, and then you're kind of limited in terms of the type of experiment you can run. And we'll show you a few use cases here about how you can get really advanced on Shopify beyond just the simple copy and image changes. And then finally, we know some users are using like an analytics tool, like a segment or a post hog, plus custom scripts to kind of do all this manually and assign those users via cookies, which is great because it gives you full control over how those variants are rendered. However, it takes a lot of engineering effort, and you don't really have any of these stats analysis or the dashboards to interpret all that. So it's basically doing everything the hard way. And we see that when used less and less. We see mostly the visual editors. And so on the Eppo front, I spoiled this a little bit, but we have two main approaches to experimenting on Shopify. So we do have our own visual editor. It works the same way via JS injection, so we recommend it for the same use cases, simple copy and image changes. The real benefit here is that anyone that can be a marketer or product manager can come in here, start an experiment, and then in the back end of Eppo, when you actually go to interpret those results, you get all the same benefits of our stats engine and so on. So being able to trust those results a little bit more, get through those experiments a little bit quicker, and so on, and come away with all the beautiful analysis and dashboards that live in the Eppo product. But we're not here to talk about visual editors too much today. That'll be another webinar. We're here to talk about feature flags. And so these are going to be server side instead of actually being rendered on the client side. And so what that allows you to do is get a lot more flexible with your approach. So you can run a lot more different experiment types. Heather's going to show you one with copy and kind of banner changes and stuff like that, and then really ramp it up with some experiments around the sorting algorithms and so on, the things that can really impact your conversion rates on that page. The nice thing too is that because of the different approach, these are rendered before the user even queries the site. So there's no performance hit, which means your SEO is better. There's no real flicker. And even those tiny milliseconds, right, they can impact your conversion rate, but they can also impact experiment accuracy and kind of correctness. So again, another area where we set ourselves apart in terms of getting those results you can trust. And then it gives you the most accurate tagging, right? You can do those assignments on the back end before they happen and make sure that the user is getting the right experience even before they come to your site. And so that's enough out of me. I'm going to hand it over to Heather to take you through the platform and take you through some experiments.
Great, thank you, CJ. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. So today we have a hosted Shopify site to walk through a couple of Eppo flags here. So I'll show you what the end experience looks like, say on your own site in this demo environment here. And then we'll also walk through the Eppo UI as well, so you can see how to power those flags on your own. So, for example, this banner, there's two main experiments running on our site right now. There's this banner where we're testing the offer code, which is coming directly from Shopify, the background color, the text here. This is a really good example of how to test something out like this, parameterize it in an Eppo flag, and then have product managers or marketers come in here and make changes on the fly, just to show you what that experience would look like if we used one of our query params to force this into the treatment. Right now I'm in control. We'll see a different experience here. We also have a different experience for our sorting algorithm. This is a really good example of how to use a flag for a experience that might require a little bit more than a visual change or updating some CSS or some styling here, where we're actually affecting the logic that we're using to report on or the logic that shows our products here. So in this case, we're sorting our items from highest to lowest price here. And if we added one of these items to our cart and used our code spring cleaning, this changed here because we don't have the query parameter up there. Just want to point that out. But if I add that code here, So spring 20 in this case. Go ahead and apply this, go to checkout, and we'll see that that discount code works. So this is a really good sort of starting place for understanding how Eppo flags can help power some really important experiences and experiments on your site. So if we take this banner flag here and head over to Eppo, there's a couple of things that are happening on this flag. So we have this flag called discount banner. We have two forced variations here. So we have some targeting conditions that are set up so that way if someone puts in a query parameter called control, they'll see control. And then we also have that for treatment. And then we have this new experiment here too. So if there's no query parameter there, someone will be opted into the experiment where they have a 50% chance of receiving control, 50% chance of receiving treatment. So what if we've run this test and maybe as a marketer, I want to add in a new experience or maybe a new discount code or change up some of the styling here or messaging. It's as simple as adding an additional variation here. So right now I'm using a JSON flag to essentially purport back some information that's coming from Eppo. Such as the title that we saw there, the code that is a code that I created in Shopify, background color, text color, all of that good stuff. And I've configured my Shopify remix/React environment to parameterize these options to allow people to create no code experiments using this flag. So I'll go ahead and create a new variation so you can see what this looks like in real time here. Maybe I want to call this Spring Promo V2. Maybe I'll keep the promo code the same, but maybe I want to be more descriptive in my offering here. Maybe I want to call this get 20% off at checkout. Maybe I want to change the background color to black, but I'll keep the code color the same. I think that should be pink in this case. So if I go ahead and save these changes, I now have a new variation where I can create an additional experiment from. So if I wanted to create an additional experiment allocation on this flag, all I need to do is update this title. So maybe I want to call this Spring Promo Variation Split. If I wanted to include some targeting rules, I can certainly include some rules here, but for right now, I'm just going to target this to everyone. If you have questions on targeting rules, certainly happy to take a tangent there and talk about that towards the end. And then if I just wanted to include my new split there, so if I wanted to say, we have our control and variation here. So we have our pink banner, our green banner, and we have this new banner we just created. We want to do 33-33 split here. We can go ahead and save this. And now we have an entirely new experiment. I can go ahead and archive this or even just move this logic down. Eppo has really nice built-in cascading logic to say, if user meets this criteria, just stop there. We don't need to keep going. So you can stack different allocations and provide some more robust targeting for your users here. So now we have this 33-33 split here. If we wanted to update this and see if we got bucketed into a new variation, okay, it looks like we're in the treatment now. And if we wanted to maybe QA that new experiment we have, Eppo has this very handy Chrome extension where we can basically pull in all of the variations that you have and all of the feature flags that you have in your environment here. And we can overwrite the basically your site with bucketing criteria described there. So this is a really nice way to QA. If you can imagine, maybe you're a product manager who's updating this banner and you want to see what it would look like in terms of what it would look like in a production sense. And maybe we haven't rolled it out to everyone yet. We've just done like a we've disabled the flag to make sure that people aren't seeing this live yet. You could still test this out and make sure that it is working the way you would expect it to using this Chrome extension here. So super helpful way to QA. This was just launched, and if you want to check out more documentation on our site, we certainly have that. Awesome. So after we've run our experiment here, we will probably want to analyze it. The way that Eppo works today is when you set up a feature flag. So in your code, you'll basically provide a way to capture that event. Eppo's SDKs will automatically create an event for you to package up, send it to your analytics provider. Could be Rudderstack, Google Analytics, Heap. There's a lot of great options out there, Segment, and then send that data to your data warehouse. And what that will look like is once you have a experiment set up here, you'll be able to report on your results using Shopify data, all the SQL definitions that you have set up in Eppo. So reporting would look something like this, where we have confidence intervals, and we're reporting on the lift for this particular metric. So for something like total order by user, we'll give you the conversion rate for each variation here, and then the relative lift here, and then this confidence interval, which is essentially saying, well, we observed 2% lift or 2% delta between our treatment and control here. We could expect to see that positive 2% number anywhere between -5 to positive 9%. So you might want to run this test a little bit longer to get some more data, hopefully inform this confidence interval a little bit more, make it more narrow, and make a decision more confidently based off of that. So just to recap, I've talked mostly about the feature flag setup experience. I haven't talked too much about the data warehouse integration experience, but I'll pause here. CJ, are there any questions? Or I'll pause here and see if there are any questions from folks in the chat that they want to see more of at Eppo.
Okay, currently no questions, but folks, if you do have them, go ahead and paste them in that Q&A box down below, and I'll read them out.
Cool. Awesome. I'll talk a little bit more about the data warehouse integration too. So while this is the end state here, to get started for those assignments or for those metrics that you may have, such as orders by user, all that is required is for the data team to essentially do this one-time setup where you're essentially creating a SQL definition. Eppo will read from your warehouse. It could be something as straightforward as select all from our assignments table. You point to each column to represent the user ID, timestamp, experiment key, variation key, and Eppo will use this data in our pipelines to do all of the event attribution. As an end user, when you create an experiment, you don't need to understand any of that. When you set up a test, it's as straightforward as maybe giving this a name, calling this spring promo. We can go ahead and start from scratch here. And then we can select our user type and our table. So again, you don't need to know SQL to get set up here. That's something that happens one time. The team can come in and set up their experiment by referencing that table and then including any of those metrics that are also set up by the data team too. And then from here, we can select our flag. So we can select one of the keys that we have in Eppo. These are flagging keys that are coming directly from there. So we could select that discount banner experiment and then select our allocation that we just created with those 3 different variations there. And this will essentially inform to Eppo, hey, here's the variations we would expect for this particular experiment. And then we can include our start date here, go ahead and submit this, and Eppo's pipelines will run in the background as a daily job to bring in more experiment results here for the team to report on. And that's a very, very high level overview of how to set up Eppo here. Happy to get into more details on the specific code required here. But that it would, just to recap, what we've covered so far is as a product manager or marketer, how to set up an experiment where we are essentially parameterizing certain aspects of our site, such as this banner here, how to make changes to this variation, create new experiments without having to go through an additional code release, how to do QA here using the Chrome extension, and then at a very high level, how to set up an experiment in Eppo. I'll pause there. CJ or folks on the call, curious if there are any other topics that we should cover today or any other things that you were hoping to see today that we haven't quite covered yet.
Yes, and I'm a little bit biased because I know
Mhm.
what other experiments we can run. So
Mhm.
I did want to see if you could take us through the sorting algorithm. I thought that was pretty neat. And then if
Yeah.
anyone else has any questions, go ahead and post them in the chat and we'll read those out.
Yeah, absolutely. So for this particular sorting algorithm that's running here, we essentially have three different options. So one option, no algorithm applied. And in this case, I'm not caching the ID that we're using here. So every time there's a page refresh, we'll refresh what algorithm should be used. And this is all being populated by Eppo. Um, so we sorted from high to low. I think I showed this briefly before what this would look like, but essentially for any category page here, all of the products will be sorted by price. Maybe if we try again and see if we get the low to high one, we'll be able to see that again, this is refreshed and reordering our products here. And what that looks like on the Eppo side is we're using a slightly different feature flag here. So in this case, we are using um, a string flag instead of a JSON type flag. So our SDK is essentially taking in the key for this particular flag called price sort, and then it will return back, instead of that JSON object, will return back this value. So it will either be none, high to low, or low to high. And we can certainly update this flag too. So if we just wanted to see, one version of this that is reported to everyone, we could update this flag or turn it off. And in real time, like essentially users won't see this algorithm, or they'll see whatever version is reported on here in Eppo.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Cool. No outstanding questions right now. Folks, if you do have any, you can add them. Otherwise, we can make this short and sweet. The two things that I'll share, if you'd like to check out this actual Shopify sandbox, we'll be sending out the link to that in the email follow-up. And then if you'd like to set up your own sandbox that looks just like this, Heather has kindly shared the GitHub repo that contains all that. So along with the recording, we'll send that out so you can kind of play around in this yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to share code too if you think that would be interesting, CJ. I can cover that at a high level too. So why don't I go ahead and change my screen really quick? So if there are any engineering folks on the call, or if you're looking to get a little bit more detail on the implementation required here, I'll go ahead and share my IDE here. So essentially what we're doing here, and we have this documented too. Eppo has a really nice initialization pattern where you can initialize the Eppo client once. We get that configuration that holds all of the rules. So all of those updates we are making to the flag, you can create this once, use this wherever you want throughout your application. And the nice thing about this is, as I was alluding to earlier, especially for the promo banner type test, an engineer can set this up once. You can set up the flag here where we're essentially taking in that user context, using that client that we created in that Eppo randomization provider that I was just showing, and then return a JSON object here using that flag key and the user context here. So this is what powers the performance of being able to make those updates in real time and not having to make a additional network request to return back what bucket someone should be in once that configuration is downloaded locally, which is kind of the pattern that's described here. You'll be able to use it throughout your app and bucket users locally. So really nice pattern for if the team is spending a lot in terms of making sure that the performance of your site or application is top notch. Using an SDK like this will ensure that you're not including additional performance or latency added to your site here.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Be on the lookout for that recording along with the different links that I mentioned. Thank you very much, Heather, for hosting that and taking us through the demo. And thank you to everyone who joined.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.